Hello and welcome to Hypnosis Today, the nation's first web TV talk show that explores the fascinating world of hypnotherapy. Hello, my name is Lisa Machenberg, and I'll be your host covering a wide variety of subjects to help you understand the power of the subconscious mind and how hypnosis is being used today to help people achieve success, happiness, and prosperity. It is my pleasure to introduce you to my first guest, whose name is Sara Fogan. And Sara is a graduate of the Hypnosis Motivation Institute, and she has a very interesting hypnotherapy practice where she is working with equestrians. Now, please help me welcome my guest, Sara Fogan. Now, Sara, when people are talking about working with equestrians, people want to know, are you hypnotizing the people or the horses?
I'm hypnotizing the people. However, as we learn in terms of their flight and fight reactions, the overload of messages that the horses are getting, they actually are very suggestible. And so when the person is becoming more relaxed, which is one of the things I help them to do, they're actually, in a way, able to hypnotize the horse to be a more compliant and cooperative and do that kind of activity that they want to do.
You know, it's so interesting because, as you know, I teach Mommy and Me, and I teach that with 2-year-olds who are all fight or flight or subconscious mind. You know, they're like little tiny magnifying glasses, and when the parents have an emotion, the children feel it, magnify it, and project it back. Are you telling me horses are the same?
They are very much the same. If you are on an animal that can feel a fly on its back, imagine a person as well who is feeling anxious, has had some kind of problem at work, or maybe even feeling really excited, had too much caffeine or coffee before they got on. All this energy is going to be felt by this animal. And if the person's not able to keep it contained and focused, this animal's going to be perceiving a predator on its back. So you want to be able to keep yourself relaxed and calm and comfortable so that the horse will be able to feel relaxed and perform and do what you need to do.
You know, is it natural for horses to have people on their back?
Absolutely not. This is something that over the centuries, humans have learned to ride horses, but the horse always thinks about the person, whatever on its back, as being a potential predator.
Well, of course.
So we need, as the rider, as the equestrian, to make sure that this is a safe, trusting, and mutually respectful environment for the horse as well.
That makes so much sense because if we think about horses in the wild, they're herd animals.
Right.
And since they are vegetarians, they would naturally be susceptible to predators. And they're used to running in herds and being suggestible, if
That's
you will, to the leader of the herd.
That's
so
right.
Are you kind of sort of the leader of the herd?
Absolutely. The rider has to be, we call the boss mare, the lead horse, which is usually the female, in the band or in the herd, who decides when to go, where to go, how fast to go, when to stop. And as long as we can project and can communicate to the horse that we are in control, we know what's going on, the horse will feel more comfortable because it looks for a leader in the herd.
Now that we understand kind of the psychology, if you will,
Right.
of the horse, tell me a little bit about how you got into being a hypnotherapist working with equestrians. Are you an equestrian?
I am. I do ride horses. I train in dressage. And when I was training at HMI, right away we were encouraged to find a niche, a particular specialty. I'd always wanted to be a therapist, and when I was encouraged to find a particular specialty, particularly after doing the 101 course, learning theory of mind, how very similar that is with how horses basically think with the fight, flight, and how they perceive and are suggestible, that this is going to be what I can do.
It seems like a most natural partnership of hypnotherapy and working with horses.
Exactly, it is. It is.
When did you graduate?
I graduated in 2005, and since then I've been really focusing on living my hypnotherapy therapist dream of working with the equestrians. This is something I'm really passionate and excited about doing.
You know, when we think about horses and people, there are so many archetypes of horses in the subconscious mind because we see it in the mythology. Certainly when I think of horse and rider, I think it's called the Minotaur,
Right.
which is half horse, half man. Is that an image you would use in hypnotherapy to integrate the two?
It could be. The Minotaur actually is the symbol, I believe, for the Sagittarius.
Yes.
In Greek mythology, one of my favorite myths is the story of Poseidon, who was the god of the ocean, was courting the Earth Mother Demeter, who basically said, I'm not going to date you until you give me a present, and she wanted the most beautiful creation he could make. So after much trial and error, finally Poseidon creates the horse. Now, Demeter is overwhelmed. She thinks this is wonderful, the best present she's ever had, the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen, by which point Poseidon had had enough.
He'd moved on.
He'd moved on, but we have horse now, so it's a wonderful story. I just love that one.
It's beautiful in mythology, and it gets right into the subconscious mind.
That's right.
Wow. So tell me about how a hypnotherapist would work with an equestrian. What kind of post-hypnotic suggestions would you use?
Right. One of the most important things working with equestrians is to help the person to focus and to feel physically and mentally relaxed. And one of the suggestions I give, for example, to have an anchor with a piece of equipment, probably the riding helmet, or if they wear gloves or boots, so that as soon as the person has put on this hat or the boots, they're immediately feeling calm, comfortable, and relaxed.
So you're using the law of association between the actual equipment that anyone would use when working with horses.
And exactly. So as soon as they have had contact put on this equipment, they're feeling this comfort, this relaxation, and the focus to know when they go out to work with their equine partner, they will be able to act like the lead mare to determine where they're going, when they're stopping, etc. So that would be one of the suggestions that I give. I also talk to, both during the cognitive part of the session and in hypnosis, the importance of nutrition and the need to have protein in the system, to limit the amount of coffee and caffeine and stimulants as well, because again, our bodies, as they process the nutrition, it's going to be expressed physically at how we are acting. If we have a caffeine buzz, your horse is going to know it. So I am giving suggestions as well, that the person that makes sure they have had plenty of protein, plenty of water to stay hydrated, so that their body can act as it needs to naturally, so they can be focused on what they're doing with the horse. And the other thing, if somebody comes to me, for example, for competition goals, is to imagine that they are watching themselves from a distance, so they can actually come back during the imagery into their body to experience the perfect ride, that everything, their positioning, how they're holding their hands, how the horse is moving, the number of strides, whatever it happens to be, they're riding the perfect ride. And so when they come back into the imagery, when they're on the horse, they really do have the whole sensation of the smells, the feeling of the leather, the feeling of their body on the animal.
Wow. So I'm going to ask a couple of very specific questions about your hypnotherapy practice. And I'm going to start with an old saying that I've heard ever since I was a little girl. I'm wondering if it's true, that if you fall off, get right back on the horse. And I know that that's a metaphor, but I'm wondering, first of all, is it true? And what kind of hypnotherapy would you use for someone who's had an uncomfortable experience, either a scary experience or a riding accident, who's in your practice?
Well, as far as getting right back on the horse, it depends if you're injured. That's the first consideration. If the person's had a serious injury, broken a limb, concussion or something, you might want to go to the doctor first.
First, before you get on the horse?
Yes.
I agree.
Yes, I think that would be, and other trainers have said that as well. If everything is okay, you would want to get on the horse because you want to create a new known for yourself, that yes, I've come off, but I can get back on again. And also, there is the belief that the horse, once it knows it stumped you, it can do it again. So depending on how far you want to go into that belief, ideally, if you can, you get back on the horse again. I think it's important for you, for the rider, to know, yes, I can do this, I'm on the horse, it's okay.
Yes.
As far as helping people who have had this issue, I use some neurolinguistic programming techniques.
Give us an example.
The fast rewind, that that's one actually I've used on myself as well. It gets rid of the emotion associated with the event, but you can still remember and work through it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one that I do. I also do a lot of desensitization and confidence building. One of my favorite examples actually that Dr. Kappas had done in one of his videos
Yes.
was with an ice skater who was having trouble with a particular jump, and he said to her, "You have done this hundreds of times. Just let your body do it. Don't think about it." And that's something that I use with my clients. You have a relationship with your horse. You are doing whatever activity it is with your horse. Let your body do it. Focus on what you're doing, only what you're doing, and in the therapy, we'll be working through what had happened, the trauma that happened.
I love it. And that can work for working with equestrians and other animals and all
Exactly.
other kinds of sports.
Yes.
You know, Sara, everybody is going to want to know more about your practice, and equestrians are going to want to come work with you. Hypnotherapists are going to want to learn how to do this.
Right.
How can people get hold of you?
Well, you can find me on the HMI graduate directory.
Can you spell your name for us?
Yes, it's Sara, S-A-R-A. Last name is Fogan, F-O-G-A-N. I also have my own website. It's commonsenshypnotherapy.com. You can find me that way, and I am on Facebook as well.
That's how I found you, was on
Yeah,
Facebook,
Facebook,
and I
yes.
invited you to come and be a guest on my show.
Thank you very much.
You know what? I've had such a good time, and I've learned a lot about what kind of hypnosis to use with equestrians who come to my practice. But we're going to take a short break. But please stay tuned, because when we come back, we're going to talk more about hypnotherapy and working with equestrians with my next guest right after this short break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Thank you. Yay! A variety of subjects to help you understand the power of the subconscious mind and how hypnosis is being used today to help people achieve success, happiness, and prosperity. It is my pleasure to introduce you to my first guest, whose name is Sara Fogan. And Sara is a graduate of the Hypnosis Motivation Institute, and she has a very interesting hypnotherapy practice where she is working with equestrians. Now, please help me welcome my guest, Sara Fogan. Hello, and welcome to Hypnosis Today, the nation's first web TV talk show that explores the fascinating world of hypnotherapy. Hello, my name is Lisa Machenberg, and I'll be your host, covering a wide range. Now, Sara, when people are talking about working with equestrians, people want to know, are you hypnotizing the people or the horses?
I'm hypnotizing the people. However, as we learn in terms of their flight and fight reactions, the overload of messages that the horses are getting, they actually are very suggestible. And so when the person is becoming more relaxed, which is one of the things,
Telling me horses are the same?
they are very much the same. If you are on an animal that can feel a flying on its back, imagine a person as well who is feeling anxious, has had some kind of problem at work, or maybe even feeling really excited, had too much caffeine or coffee before they got on. All this energy is going to be felt by this animal. And if the person's not able to keep it contained and focused, this animal's going to prove what I help them to do. They're actually, in a way, able to hypnotize the horse to be a more compliant and cooperative and do that kind of activity that they want to do.
You know, it's so interesting because, as you know, I teach Mommy and Me, and I teach that with 2-year-olds who are all fight or flight or subconscious mind. You know, they're like little tiny magnifying glasses, and when the parents have an emotion, the children feel it, magnify it, and project it back. Are you